Hi, my darlings. I'm Sophie Darling, and welcome back to the channel. Today, we're reacting to episode 7 of series 2 of Vinland Saga. And I'm going to preface, if I'm not as talkative in this episode, then it is solely because I am recovering from a very bad migraine. I had a really bad migraine yesterday, and then today it's kind of tapered off. Like, I still have a bit of a headache, but I also just feel kind of run down and not well in general. So, if I'm not my usual analytical, engaging self and I miss stuff, it's because I'm ill. Okay, I'm gonna blame it on the illness. I'm kind of not able to take a break when I'm ill because I don't have any backup footage to post. So we're just going to truck through it. We're going to power through. But last episode, I really, really loved. I think it was one of my favorites in terms of seeing Thorfinn beginning to find a sense of direction, a sense of new lease of life. He's taking pleasure in learning and growing and being creative rather than destructive. He's associating life with something more than death and bloodshed. And we're really beginning to see that spark come back into him, and that curiosity that he lost is at the forefront of every interaction he has, to the point that Aina calls him a big baby because it's like he's learning about the world like a newborn baby would. But that's because Thorfinn never really had a childhood. He didn't really get to experience the joys of learning and growing and experiencing these marvels, or what are marvels to him, but not so much to Aina, because he was thrown into conflict, into war, and down this path of revenge. So it is like he's a baby. He's relearning how to live in this world and how to be at peace. But there was some hints in a couple episodes now that there may be some conflict coming to the farm. And that is because there has been mention that there's not enough guards to protect the farmlands, that it would take 60 men to overrun them. And I don't know, that to me feels like hinting that there's going to be a conflict. I think it was also mentioned when Thorfinn was brought to the camp that they were there to prevent any attacks from happening, and then Snake in the last episode was like, "We don't have enough men to protect this place. It would only take like 50 or 60 men to overrun it." And that kind of makes me feel like they're setting up the premise that there's going to be a conflict, that something is going to happen to thrust them into a situation where they have to fight to survive, that Thorfinn may find himself thrust back into holding a sword, but for a different purpose. Instead of for raiding, pillaging, and invading, it's for protecting those that he's going to care for and the land that he has been helping to shape and is taking pride in. But I think that's possibly the direction it's going to go in. We'll see. Either way, I'm excited to delve into this. I can't wait to see more of Thorfinn's growth. I still am holding out hope that he's going to go home. We still have quite a few episodes left, so I'm hoping that at some point he goes home, because he deserves to meet his family again and to have a life with them and to try and find a sense of peace and purpose by living by his father's philosophies. But I don't know. That could be like a series 3 adventure, but we shall see. Again, very early into series 2, so anything can happen. We really can't predict too much other than what we've seen so far, but it really could just go any direction from here on out. But without further ado, we're going to get into episode 7.
二人組だな。またか。例の奴らだろう。足跡の特徴は似ている。やれやれ。旦那の留守中に。
Two of them, and it's them again. So somebody's been stealing.
取る量は可愛いもんだが、味を占めて。
Which means they could bring more people next time.
しゃあね。そろそろお仕置きが必要だな。
So does he already know who it is? Also, Snake can punish me any day. Just saying.
道具や馬を貸してくれる上に同じ宅でご飯を食べるなんて。
いや、でも
雑用の見返りです。
No. He likes
私たちは奴
you.
隷ですよ。見返りなんてないのが普通でしょ。
It's probably because he doesn't really see them as slaves.
でも、じゃあなんで気に入られたんだろ
ごめんなさ
But you're strong and
い。
diligent and you work
いい人です
hard.
もの。ご自覚ないんですね。
Oh, his little face is gonna go bright red. Just tell her you love her already.
う。
He wasn't listening.
ああ。気を使ったひょっとして。
Yes. Because you're
あいつもいいや
friends.
つですよ。無口だけど。
え、お話し相手ができて、毎朝が楽しみなんですよ。
Oh, they're
私
so cute.
はい。また明日の朝。
Oh my god, they're adorable.
いい人だって。
He's like, she likes me. She really likes me. Wow, what a bitch.
朝毛の支度もまだだというのに油を売っていいご身分ね。
Oh god, that really drove home how serious their situation is. Like, that was so jarring between this really light-hearted, amusing moment between them flirting with each other and taking pleasure in each other's company to her being struck by the mistress because she's not performing her duty. She's dilly-dallying, essentially. She's not behaving in the way that they expect a slave to behave in. And the look on her face from how she is with Aina to how she is now is like a completely different person. She's almost stoic and cold. And it's just how this show really drives home the reality of their situation. It is a situation in which they are brought here as labor and exploited. And obviously, we know that. We do know that. But I think the show is very good at making you almost humanize people that you shouldn't and then instantly jars you back into reality. They did it with Askeladd in series 1, where they had the connotation of him being similar to Artorias, his ancestor, who is this heroic figure, and you have him seem being quite noble in his deeds and his actions for a couple of episodes, and then you get the village scene where he decides that he's going to slaughter this entire village. And it brings you back into reality that he isn't this noble, heroic figure like Artorias. He is Askeladd, and this is what he has done before and he will continue to do. And again, here, we've come to really sort of appreciate the old master and then his son because they seem to treat the slaves very well. They seem to be partaking in helping and growing their crop alongside them. And then we have this mistress who I'm believing is his wife, who has none of that empathy for the slaves, who has none of that respect for them, but merely sees them as something that she can exert power and control over. It jars you back into the reality of the moment that their situation is one that is serious, that has dire consequences if they don't obey. And like I said, the last couple of episodes have been quite sort of light-hearted, been quite driving home that empathy towards Ketil and his father. And then now we're seeing the other side of that and we're being brought back into the harshness of this environment. The writer of this show, I can't remember his name off the top of my head, unfortunately, does a phenomenal job of that, of driving home the reality once more.
水郷でお前を置いてるんじゃないよ。食べる分働きなさい。
はい。奥
You
様
didn't have to strike her
今日は
though.
旦那様が民会からお帰りになります。まあ、奴隷女には奴隷の男がお似合いってもんさね。
She's an ugly thing, isn't she, that mistress?
不思議だな。こんなのからパンができるのか。
Oh, I love Curious
それ言
for
ったか。
Finn. He's like, this becomes
感動する。
this. How?
すごいな。
よし、やる気出てきた。
He's so
これが自
sweet.
由への第一歩だ。バリッバリ開墾して、来年の作付けは倍に
He's
するぜ。
really motivating for Finn and encouraging him. I love it.
なあ、俺たちはこうやって畑やってれば自由になる目はあるけどさ。
But then what?
アルネイズさんはその辺どうなってるんだろ
Some slaves may not have that option. That's a good point. That he may be able to buy his freedom, but she might not be able to do the same because she doesn't work the fields. She works in the house.
う。ああ、麦な。しばらくはやることないよ。
Ladybug.
そうか。じゃあ伐採の続きを。
なので、祈る。
祈る
For a strong harvest that it grows.
祈らせたまえ、虫神大佐、雨降らせ。
I've never seen anyone pray like that, but okay.
さあ、ご一緒に。
Even he's like, what the fuck are you doing?
祈るって何に
なんでもいいよ。ヤハウェの神でも、フレイヤ神でも。
Just pray.
みんなすがる。
Just something you do.
いいからそこへ座り。
Doesn't matter which god, just pray to someone.
ほら、手を組んで一緒に。
育て
Please.
声が小さい。
Oh my god, Aina.
育てたまえ
テレビを切る。中途半端が一番恥ずかしいんだ。
I love them so much.
せーの。虫神大佐。
He gets to actually be his age. Oh, it's great. I love seeing him get to be himself and have a friend to bond with.
おお、変わっとらんの。この農
Who
場
are you?
おふくろやオルマルは元気にしてるかい、親父殿。
A son.
ああ、オルマルなどは元気すぎて困るぐらいだ。
Is this why Almost so intensely driven by this idea of becoming like a soldier, that a real man is someone that wields a sword? Because we can see that his brother is like holding that sword as if it's nothing. And we also saw that Olmo was trying to like pull it from his back and was struggling because obviously he's not trained. He doesn't know how to do that. And I know there were a few comments that were basically saying it's because it's impossible for him to actually wield it that way, but I don't think that's the point. You can absolutely pull a sword from your back. You can absolutely do that. It is because he doesn't have the strength or capability or the know-how of how to draw the sword properly is why he fails. That's the point. It's driving home that he has no knowledge of warfare and weapons, and that's why he fails to accomplish what he wants to do. But seeing his older brother now coming in with the father and the sword draped around his neck with ease, it's kind of like, is that where he gets this ambition? He wants to be like his older brother, that he marvels him and wants to emulate him, that he feels like this is the only way to be a man.
お前のように戦場へ行きたくてうずうずしとる。
Okay. So he's trying to follow in his footsteps.
度胸なしのくせに。人には得て増えてがあるのだ、トールギル。相手に戦場は合わん。人間、身に合った場所におるのが一番良い。
I love that. He's not admonishing his son for not being a warrior. He's basically saying that everyone has their strengths and weaknesses and that we should emphasize our strengths rather than trying to pursue a weakness. That we should know our place, essentially. No, because he knows he doesn't want to do that. I love that this is also like a direct contrast to series 1, where Canute's father thrust him into battle knowing that he wasn't prepared for it, knowing he was unskilled. But it is thanks to other people that Canute survived that situation, and it was also thanks to his status. But his father still intended for him to die. Whereas we're seeing here that Ketil won't do that to Olmo. He won't send his son to what is akin to a death sentence. He loves his son dearly, and he doesn't care that his son's not a warrior. He knows that his son has other strengths that he wants to encourage, and that he feels that it's far more beneficial to focus on those strengths and for Olmo to stay close at hand, which is why he's grooming him to inherit the farm, because he believes that he would be good to step into his place. He's not teaching his oldest son, he's teaching his younger son, because that's his strength and he knows that's his strength and he wants to encourage him rather than putting delusions of grandeur into his head that he's going to be a fierce warrior and that he's going to grace the battlefield and become a hero when he knows that his son doesn't have the skills for it and that he would likely die if he encourages him that way. But it's just the juxtaposition of the two fathers here. We have Canute, who has been changed and shaped by war, who is now the general. He's not this weak prince, he's this strong king who's leading battles and being decisive. But Canute only got there because of other people. That's not to devalue Canute. Canute has strength in his words, and that's how Canute got so far. He played to his strengths, not his weaknesses. But if Canute had not been a prince, if he had not had the privilege of being the son of Sven, he would have died. So that's the difference. Ketil knows his son doesn't have that same privilege, and therefore he's not going to send his son there. But Canute got to where he is, yes, by some of his skills and his strengths and playing on that, but also from the luxury of being a prince. Not that he saw it as a luxury, but it is a privilege nonetheless. And having the benefit of people around him supporting him in that endeavor. That shaped him, that changed him, and he did become stronger for it, for being on the battlefield. Not in the way that his father expected him to, but Orma doesn't want to take that risk because he knows that such luxuries aren't granted to his child. With another four kill, 4 gil, 4 fin, 4
臨海で親父殿と会ってな、ついでに里帰りだ。しぶといな、まだ死なねえ。あんたに稽古つけてもらったおかげだよ。
Oh, so he trained him.
ベビー、その
He trained me.
ああ、そうだ。ほら、早くしろ。
Oh.
こそ泥です。
But they're also children.
こそ泥？俺の感じゃ、まあ全部こいつの仕業かなと。
They're trying to feed themselves. They're hungry.
ガキでも盗みは盗みです。一丁、仕置きをお願いします、旦那。
But what would you do if you were in that situation? Starve? Especially when you have a younger sister depending on you. You would steal. Doesn't mean it's okay, but in this situation, it's life or death. You have to do what you need to do to survive. Oh, God, love him. They're just kids.
戦の後は楽しい略奪大会。売れそうな女を争って切り合うなんざしょっちゅうさ。オルマル。
He looks horrified.
行ってみたいか？イングランドに。
No.
なんだ？嫌なのか？
He's only saying that because he wants to please his brother. He doesn't actually want to go. He just wants his brother to be proud of him. It's ears. That's disgusting. Ew, why? Why would you do that? He's a little sadist, isn't he? Oh. He doesn't know because he never told him. Are we about to have another father that's forsaken battle and bloodshed for the sake of giving his sons a better life so that his sons don't have to experience what he went through? It seems like he's trying to protect Orma from that he didn't want Orma to know about his past experience. He wants Orma to have a different life to him. His older son obviously knows about it, and look what happened. His older son's gone into battle, has thrown himself head first into it, whereas Orma doesn't know, and Orma hasn't chosen battle in a sense. He's only doing it because he wants to please his brother. He wants his brother to be proud of him. He doesn't want to be like his father. He wants to be like his older brother. He's trailing in his footsteps. But I feel like we're now going to have another father that's very like Thor's, in that Thor's never told his family, bar Helga, because Helga obviously knew about his experience as a warrior, that he was one of the strongest men and was a fierce and capable soldier. He never told his children that because he didn't want his son to grow up with this knowledge. He didn't want his son to be inspired by it because in his mind, it wasn't something to be inspired by. It was something to be ashamed of, that he'd grown to be a better person. And that was who he wanted to inspire his son to be and to influence his son that way, not have his son influenced and inspired by these images of the past, by this person that he no longer is, by this figure that he no longer wants to be associated with. He doesn't want his son to make a hero out of the person that he's ashamed of having been. I think Ketil might be the same. It's very telling that only one son knows, and that son went down the path of being a warrior and the other son doesn't, and is only wanting to be a warrior insofar as to make his brother proud of him.
その後ずっと素手で戦うらしいんだ。それでいて、誰よりも手柄もあげる。
Jesus Christ. It's like he's trying to break the cycle.
の連中と話すと、結構鉄拳の名前が出るぜ。
旅の疲れもあるだろう。そろそろ奥で休みなさい。
そんなにやわじゃありませんぜ。
トールギル。
Oh, he's laying down the law. He's like, go inside.
わかりました。鉄拳ケテル殿。
すみませんが、お休みの前にあれを片付けてもらっていいですかね。
I think he's gonna let them go. I don't think he's gonna punish them.
あら、名前言え。
こらやめんか。怯えているから喋れんのだぞ。
失礼。妹はトーラ。
They're so cute.
そうか。スチュルにトーラ。
身内は他に母親と赤ん坊がいます。
To no
母親は病気で
one.
伏せってたんで、連れてき
Oh.
ませんでした。
So that's why
父
they're
親は行方知れ
stealing.
ずです。
Because there's no one to take care of their mother who's ill. And with his mother being ill, there's nobody else to take care of their family.
旦那様に時代の借金をしています。
おお、あのスノッリか。
一年帰ってこねえんだ。もう帰らねえよ。
That's harsh. Wow.
父ちゃんはちょっと出かけてるだけだ。
You're literally crushing their ambitions and their hopes. They're just kids.
しかしこの頃はまだしも。病の母親と赤ん坊がおる。
Oh,
引き取る者はおるまい。
he really feels for
どう
them.
なさいましたあなた。
で、この二人は何を盗んだんだ。
Food.
余罪は多数ですが、とりあえず麦の粉一袋の盗みはゲロしました。この袋が空になるまでの間だけ待ってやるよ。
You're wasting the
正直に
food.
仕置きも軽く済むぜ。うちの袋の底には旦那の名前が書いてあるんだってね。
To basically coerce them into speaking.
なら話は早い。腕一本だな。
And then what? There'll be nobody to look after the family.
妹はまだ小さいだ。勘弁して。
ほう。なら妹の分の罰もお前が受けろ。両腕切断だ。
The lack of empathy for a child in this situation is striking.
てなとこで決まりだろう、親父殿。
No, you can't. He'll
恐
die.
ろしい。わしの息子とは到底思えん。
He has no love for this son.
わしはどうあってもお前たちのことを仕置きせねばならんのだぞ。
Or hire them. Or help them. Punishment can't be the only way.
死刑にも等しい仕置きだ。
Thank you.
盗みの罰には重すぎる。
He's the only one with reason here.
長か、旦那様。
ほう。
I think Peter knows that he doesn't want to punish them, that he actually has great empathy because he's saying, I have dust in my eyes, because he's obviously very emotional. He knows that these children are so desperate to survive, that their mother's sick, that they had to resort to stealing in order to help their mother get better, to take care of their little baby, sibling. I don't know if they specified if it was a boy or a girl, but it kind of looked like a boy. So I'm going to say little baby brother. And to also have the strength to be able to take care of their family in turn. So I think he knows and he wants to help them, but he's thrust into this position where he'll look weak if he lets them get away with it. And that it would only encourage more thieves if rumor got out that he was too easy on them, if the master wasn't harsh. But Peter, in speaking up and offering an alternative, he can look to be considerate and contemplative, as if he wasn't having second thoughts about punishing them in general. It looks as if he's open to reason, but not above punishing if needs be. And I think Peter knows that. I think Peter knows that if he offers an alternative, Ketil will be able to agree to it without undermining his position and his authority on the farm, and have people possibly look down on him for not punishing these children, which is fucking wild because they're kids. But and I know there's going to be someone in the comments that's like, yeah, but thievery is thievery. I don't care. I'm going to be real honest. There's a difference between thieving for pleasure and thieving for survival. If you're thieving to survive and to help your family and to ensure that you have something to eat so you can live another day, I'm going to look the other way. I don't give a fuck. I have said numerous times, if I ever see someone that is stealing baby food, I am not going to say shit. Because you're not stealing baby food for the fun of it. You're stealing baby food because you need baby food and you can't afford baby food. You know? If I'm in a position where I can help, I will help. But what I mean is, I'm not ever going to condemn someone doing what it takes to survive. Because in this world, it's do or die. And we're also looking at a historical time frame in which a father has disappeared. We have children without the breadwinner of the family, a mother that is sick who isn't the breadwinner. So what are they supposed to do? Just give up and die? No. And I think he admires their fortitude and their willingness to keep the family together and to do what it takes in order to survive. But at the same time, he has to look authoritative and he has to look firm. But Peter's gonna hopefully give him a way out. Because I think Peter knows that he doesn't want to do this because he was getting emotional and he knows he doesn't want to because he's a good man.
当農場の経理を務める身といたしましても、少年に重罰を与えるのはどうかと考えます。
He can help.
両腕を切り落としては使い物になりません。罪の損害と父親の借金を回収すべきです。この子たちに働いて返してもらいましょう。この子たちとその母親を奉公人として当農場に雇い入れることを提案。
I think that's a fair resolution.
私がスチュールに技術指導します。
Oh, Peter, you're such a good man.
働き手に育てば今回の損害は回収できます。
全くだ。
He looks so
回
relieved.
収せねばならん。果ては
以上の理由から仕置きは棒打ちなどが妥当と思われま
Oh, there's still gonna have to be a punishment somehow, isn't there?
いやいや盗んだ分は奉公で返済させるのだし。
But he's like, you still have to
借金という
prove a
形の
point.
罰でいいだろ
Oh, I love him though. Kettle's like, no, I don't want to. I don't want to do that. But how is he gonna work if you beat
それに手癖の
him?
悪いのはどこへ行っても嫌われる。さて、何回ですか？
Oh no, he really doesn't want to do this, but they're leaving him with no choice.
う。5、10回。
Oh,
10
Ketil.
回ずつね。
Oh. Oh, he loves his sister so much. Oh. No, don't, because he won't be nice about it. I think Snake could be lenient.
軽くだぞ。
He's not going to be gentle. He's not. Even his father's like, he's a monster. He's gonna have to strike his son. Oh, I thought he was gonna have to like fight his son. Because that was one strike. The kid would be dead after 20. Not 20, 19. I hope he didn't accidentally kill the kid with his strength.
やれやれ。鉄拳ケテルももう年かね。
No, he's just changed. He doesn't take pleasure in harming children.
鉄拳なんぞ。ノルドの男は育児なしでは生きていけんのだ。
That's her.
皆がわしに当然のように
I forgot her name, but that's not his wife.
名士と呼ばれるこのわしが。そんな
So she's not just a servant in the house, she's also someone he sleeps with.
わしは恐ろしい。息子のトールギルが。
Which means I
戦
know
争が暴力が恐ろしいのだ。
can't go near her. She's oh god.
お優しいことが悪いことであるはずはありませんわ。
That's why his wife is so harsh towards her.
そう言ってくれるのはそばにいてくれ。お前がいなかったらこの世は闇だ。
And her world is full of darkness staying with you. That's the issue. She doesn't want to be here. She's literally not just a servant in the house, but also a bed slave. She has to sleep with him. And that's why the wife is so like harsh towards her, because obviously this is a woman that is literally here and is sleeping with her husband. Of course, she does not have a choice in this. She is not to blame, of course, but that jealousy and resentment and anger, she can't take it out on her husband because it's his right to do that in this time period. But she can take it out on the woman that he shares a bed with, that he's literally being vulnerable with and emotional with, that he should be doing that with his wife, but he's not. He's doing that with his slave. He's doing that with a woman that has no choice but to be in his bed. And this whole, you know, don't ever leave me, my world would be dark, because, you know, the only person that ever understands me or sees the kindness in me and the true me is you, which makes me worry that he's going to get angry at her and Aina being close to each other, of Aina having affection for her, and that he's going to make it difficult or put a spanner in the works in order to ensure that they can't be together, because he doesn't want anyone taking her attention away from him. What I love about the show is how a lot of these characters are morally grey. We see that Ketil has some good qualities to him, but he is not a good person. There's very few solely good people in the show. And I mean, even Canute has good characteristics, but he isn't an all-around good person. And I think that's one of the good things about the show, is that there is no such thing as a good person. It is complicated because humans are complicated. Much in the same way with Attack on Titan, there was no such thing as good people, just people trying to survive and do what it takes in this world to get by. And that's what we're seeing here. Ketil has good qualities, good characteristics, but he himself also has aspects that make him a negative figure, such as the fact that he has a slave that is a concubine, that he is indulging sexually in someone that doesn't have a choice. She can't refuse him. So therefore, it's not consensual. It's a power imbalance. So yeah, I feel for Arnheid, I'm probably butchering her name quite a lot. I'm hoping that little boy's not dead. It kind of looks like he's alive, because obviously she's putting the cloth on his head, so she's tending to him, which she wouldn't be doing if he was dead. I think Ketil would have made sure that he held back enough that the boy didn't die, but also still punished him so that no one could look at him as if he was weak. A Norseman can't be a coward and make it in this world. Everyone expects me to be brave. Nobody suspects a great man like me would lie about that. So when he says all that Iron Fist stuff is a lie, I think it's more the fact that this brave, heroic figure that can shatter men with his fists and not break a sweat and was fearless, that's the lie. That's not who he truly is. It's an act, it's a facade, it's something that he's put on. Because he goes on to say that a Norseman can't be a coward and make it in this world. So he felt like he had no other choice but to be the iron fist, that he had to be this person, because if he's not, how is he supposed to get by? Because people would judge him, they'd condemn him. This perception of masculinity in this environment is that one needs to be strong and heroic and never falter, never show emotion, never show weakness. Again, characteristics we still see plague the conception of masculinity in today's age. And that's one of the most amazing things that I love about Vinland Saga, is that it shows a different aspect of masculinity, that it shows that you don't need to subscribe to specific characteristics in order to be a man. You are not less of a man because you are emotional. You are not less of a man because you cry. You are not less of a man because you are a coward. You are not less of a man because you abhor violence. Those characteristics don't define whether you're a man or not. So I love that the show really delves into that it really tries to drive home that this perception of masculinity is merely that. It's a perception that is drummed into sons from their fathers, and then they drum it into their sons, and it becomes this ideal for people to aspire to, but it's an unrealistic ideal because it doesn't take into consideration that humans are complex and masculinity in itself, and men are complex. Men have emotions too. And this idea that men have to be emotionless in order to be a man is just illogical, because it's not the truth. You're teaching men to suppress their emotions, which leads to negative repercussions in terms of mental health and not being able to feel like they can actually talk about their feelings and to own how they feel. And we're seeing that here. We're seeing this man who is known for these great heroic deeds break down that he can't admit who he really is, that this world has this perception of him, but that's not who he is. He's not this brave figure. He's somebody that abhors violence, abhors war, fears his son because his son has become everything that he hates, everything that he admonishes. And that's why he wants his younger son to be different. And that's why he didn't tell him about his past experience. He didn't want to influence him to be socialized into viewing what he used to be as this ideal of masculinity. He didn't want his perception of being a man to be tainted. Unfortunately, socialization doesn't just work from father to son, it also works from older brother to younger brother. Boys learn from their environment, they learn from those that they see around them. And he sees his older brother take up the sword, go to battle, become this heroic figure in his eyes, and he wants to make his brother proud. So he mimics the characteristics that he thinks his brother will admire in him. That's not who he actually is. That's not how he really feels. But he doesn't really have a choice in his mind. He has to make his brother proud, and in making his brother proud, he has to be like his brother. So he's mimicking and performing this idea of masculinity that his brother displays in the hope that he will be accepted and his brother will be proud of him, but that's not actually how he feels or thinks. And it's just a mask. It's a really good display of socialization into masculinity, how young boys pick it up and how they begin to fall into this cycle of believing that there's only one way in this world to be a man. There isn't one way in this world to be a man. And we know that. The concepts of femininity and masculinity are defined by characteristics. And these characteristics are learned behaviors. They are not inherently born traits. They are not something that we are naturally, genetically bound to perform. They are taught by society. They are societal pressures, which is why we have this significant rise in discussions around men's mental health, because of the idea of men, this societal expectation that men cannot cry, that they cannot be emotional, that they cannot be abused, that they cannot be victims, has created this toxic perception of what being a man is, that it doesn't really take into effect the actual lived reality. And you have men that are trying to aspire to this idea but never reach it, and therefore condemn themselves. And then they bottle up how they feel. And when they bottle up how they feel, it has a negative consequence on their mental health. So, you know, these perceptions are socially ingrained, they're socially taught. They are not something we are born with. My PhD was in masculinity and the socialization of masculinity and also violence. So I do know what I'm talking about when it comes to masculinity and the perception of it, and that it is not something we are born with, but something we are taught, much in the same way that the perception of femininity and that we are natural caregivers and that our function is to teach and nurture isn't actually something women are born with. It is something that we are taught. It's something that we learn from an early age is expected of us as girls, much in the same way that boys will have their own certain expectations enforced on them as young boys that they believe that they have to live up to in order to be a man or a woman in this society. And it's all bullshit. It's all constructed in order to keep people in tight little boxes, to create these divides between us. But it is a construct in itself. And that's why you see characters like Ketil buckling under the weight of it, under the expectation, under the pressure to be something that he's not. And it's the same with Olma. He is buckling under that too. He wants his brother to be proud of him. He wants to be seen as a real man in his eyes. But again, what is a real man? A real man is defined by his actions, not by how he lives up to orchestrated ideas of what masculinity is. His actions speak louder than any perception of masculinity ever can. But I think that's all I want to say for now. I really did enjoy this episode. I think I paused quite a lot. There was some really interesting concepts going on. And I think, again, this series is just going from strength to strength. I think every episode has been phenomenal so far. So I'm really excited to see how it plays out over the long run. But if you enjoyed this react, please consider liking, subscribing, and leaving a comment below to help boost this video into the algorithm. And until next episode, bye.